Time for the SME conversation this morning on Wake Up Nigeria. For that, we have Dr. Oladipo Kolawole. He is an esteemed, distinguished infectious diseases expert and innovator. He specializes in infectious diseases caused by viruses and antimicrobial resistance. Now, he is an international fellow of the Indian Council of Medical Research, African Union, SCRC, and an experienced science entrepreneur. Today, we'll be having a conversation about his company, Helix Biogen. Great to have you in the studio with us.
Nice having me around this morning. It's a pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now people talk about setting up businesses, and as Nigerians, we think of so many things.
Okay.
However, few people actually do focus on infectious diseases.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Helix Biogen.
Well, from my experience and what I've done so far, I think during the course of my master's degree and PhD, I felt that there is an aspect of entrepreneurship in science. And Anka will marry that. And so far, we have a lot of students graduating from school and still waiting for collar job before they get it. So I think we need to lead in that area, in that space, and identifying the gap in the market based on the experience I had working from Lautech till I moved down to Adeleke University as a lecturer. I discovered that there are some gaps that need to be filled that can make our students more employable. So that's why I have that organization, which is Helix Biogen Institute. So what we do majorly, we upskill students.
You upskill students. Okay.
So that all the skills that you couldn't get during your training, you can get, which make them to be more employable in the market, and also give students the opportunity to get scholarship outside the country. Then the major icing on the cake for what we're doing is that we venture into what we call translational research.
Translational research.
A research that leads to products, which is from bench to bed. And we have three major things we're doing. We are trying to work in the vaccine design and development, point of care diagnostic test kit, and we are trying to develop some other biologics. In 2019, we were able to develop a candidate vaccine for COVID-19, which was recognized and captured by WHO. And that time, our candidate vaccine was only the one that made it to the list, except for that of Nigeria and that of Egypt. So those are the things that we're doing. So we're still growing, and we're still doing more about what we are doing. And we put out our publications based on the findings that we have. And we have a lot of collaborators that we're working together.
Now, your business, would you say it's capital intensive, or it has more to do with knowledge? Because I know quite well that science is capital intensive. There's a lot of research, and researchers are not cheap.
Yeah.
There's also a lot that is involved. So would you say it's capital intensive to begin your business?
I think it's semi-capital intensive because what I leverage on data. I leverage on what is called genomics. I leverage on what is called bioinformatics. So when we started from dry lab. Now we have moved to wet lab. We have some other equipment we are moving with, and we are still working on some other certifications to make us work at international par with some others. So, but what we do, I just believe that when I have the idea, I should move ahead with it. Although on the course of this 5 years journey, we have been able to attract an investor from Spain, none of it from Africa, from Spain, based on the work we are doing on NTDs, that is neglected tropical diseases. We are trying to develop what we call point of care diagnostic test kit. That's like a test strip that is used for pregnancy. Because we are looking at our context in Africa, that if I have to diagnose people in the village, there's no electricity, there's no internet, then personnel. So can I develop something that is small, that a non-medical personnel can quickly use to diagnose, like pregnancy test kits? You don't need to go to school to know that it's positive. So that when we screen that out, we can move on. So that is the stage where we are. Though we have some services that we render based on our business plan that we're using to make us being effective and sustainable. So we train students, and students pay us a token for the training. And I've trained beyond Nigeria because we have online. And most of our students that we have trained are currently in US, UK, that have gotten scholarship based on the skill they have acquired.
Now, I'm glad you're mentioning your clientele, because there's the empowerment part, that's the training.
Exactly.
But then there's also the diseases parts, like you mentioned. You mentioned the Spanish company.
Foundation.
Yes, investing. Who are your clientele?
Now, most of our clients are students, researchers, and currently now we are working with some biopharmaceutical industries that we develop biomarker because the space is capital intensive. But we have to take a step one after the other. Yeah. So what we do now, we develop biomarkers and we give them to go ahead with it. I can tell you that most of some pathogen that could be of pandemic potential in the future, my team has started working on it just for us to develop the candidate vaccine and get a partner that can pick it up from there, because that is a very huge capital. But we don't need to wait till you have the money before you start doing something. And that is why we have started doing that. And we train students too in that regard, so that Nigeria, we have that capacity in case in future something happen, we can leverage our weaknesses, our strength that we have acquired during the process on any new thing that is emerging in the future.
Now, from all the conversation, from this conversation, I can tell that you've been pouring in a lot into this, and I'm really wondering, how rewarding has it been? Besides the reward of, yes, you're able to, create something that could save lives, financial reward, would you say is rewarding? Because you seem to be the one pouring a lot into it.
Yeah, I think we have services we are rendering that we analyze for
So the
people.
Services are what you're using to support the business.
Exactly.
Right.
Because currently now we have 25 staff working at the institute.
Wow, and they have to be paid.
And they have to be paid.
Yes.
And the running cost is there. So we keep running and running it based on the business model we're using. But we keep expanding as times move on. Although we are still applying for grants, some of the time we are still speaking with some other investors to see how we can move forward and move ahead. Though the landscape is very trickish because you are not sure if what you are investing in will get into the market. But if it hit the market, you have it all. And that is what we're doing.
So at the moment, you're still hoping that something you do will hit the market. Or has anything you've done hit the market yet?
Nothing yet, because in biologics, it has a process.
Yeah.
You have to go to preclinical trial, go to clinical trial before you get into the market. And you have to go through other certifications, regulatory body certifying you before you move into it. But the most important thing we are doing now is that we are developing biomarkers for big pharmaceutical companies rather, so that they can take it up from there and move on. Pending the time, we also have the financial strength in doing what they are doing.
Okay, so now that takes me to the issue of partnering. Okay. Now, you've mentioned the fact, again, I would make reference to the Spanish company. But then locally, has there been no support from the government?
Well, for now, I have not really explored it for now, because the way we work, it's very, very trickish. And what I mean trickish is means that majority of people don't invest in things like this. They're always scared. But for us, we were encouraged when Helix Foundation came in to support us. And at that time, it was called for West Africa. And we have 2 companies from Nigeria, which we were one of them that we supported. And even now, on that vaccine I'm talking about, we have Unizima that have signed MOU with us. And they also have signed MOU with federal government, Ministry of Health. But we have been working together. I have some other pharmaceutical industry from US again that we've been working together on some biomarker. But one thing I'm very sure.
I know you have a lot to share with us regarding this. And I must say that what you do is very impressive. It's, I dare say, it is something that you obviously are passionate about. And so I commend you for it, and I really hope it turns out to be rewarding eventually, because I can see you've invested a lot into this, financially, emotionally, and so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
It's been quite an interesting conversation.
Nice.
And so your reward is not going to be in heaven alone. On Wake Up Nigeria this morning, we're going to give you a bit of reward by feeding you breakfast. I hope you came empty. All right, so we head straight to the kitchen now for breakfast.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Do join me.
Yeah.